Welcome back. We're here with Michael McLean. He is a multi-millionaire business owner, an author, speaker, business coach who has taught thousands of highly successful men how to get it all done in today's business world and still enjoy an incredible life. He's known for his noble, kick butt, take no prisoners approach to business as the celebrated merchant of truth of the coaching and consulting industry. And so we're going to find out about Michael being a professional hockey coach and team owner, influenced his approach to business, how to triple profits, how to get from point A to point Z. His website is brassballssecrets.com, where we're going to have some fun. We're going to learn some secrets. Michael, wonderful speaking with you today.
Thank you, Robert. I like that introduction of take no prisoners. I like that.
Yes, just leave all the blood out there in the hockey arena. And so tell me about yourself. What did I miss in your bio, or what should people just really sit up and pay very close attention to in regards to you?
Well, I decided when I was graduating from high school, I decided that hockey was my obsession, but I wasn't good enough to play in the National Hockey League. So I said, how would I end up in the National Hockey League? How could I make this my life? So I either had to coach or referee. And so I finally decided, okay, I'm going to see how far I can take this hockey coaching things and see if I can make a lifestyle and a career out of it. And it was only 4 or 5 years later when I was coaching full time through my university years. My friends would be working at the pub or at Subway or any of these places, and I was coaching full time. So when I graduated from university, I had my very first minor pro job waiting for me. So I was 24, 25 years old. And it was interesting because I was like, I'm on the way to the NHL, and this is what I'm going to do. And this is my obsession. And this is my passion. Well, fast forward 3 years, Robert, and I get fired, like all coaches, hired to be fired. And I return home to my parents, and I'm sitting there at the kitchen table and I'm licking my wounds and getting ready to apply for another job, get right back into coaching. And it was my dad, who had been an entrepreneur since he was 15 years old. He worked to age 85. He said, do you mind if we talk about a little bit about the future and your involvement in hockey? And I said, sure. And he said, listen, he said, can you answer me a question? How many cities have you lived in the last 4 years coaching hockey? And I said, 4. He said, okay. He says, how many owners have you worked for coaching different teams? He goes, I said, 4 and 4. He said, how many different places have you been? I said, 4 and 4 years. He said, do you want to be married? And I said, of course I want to be married someday. And do you want to have a family? I said, I of course I want to have a family. And he said to me, he said, okay, so if you continue on this track of coaching pro hockey, you're going to live in 15 different cities. If you're good, you're going to live in 15 different houses. He says, and your kids are going to go to 15 different schools. That's if you're successful. He said, I can tell you right now, at the time my dad had been a businessman for 40 to 50 years, he said, any fool can make money, son. But he said, it takes real mastery to make money and still have an incredible lifestyle. So he said, I'm just going to throw something out at you, and you can take it with a big pound of salt or whatever you want. He said, but how about joining me in the family insurance business? He said, it's the greatest business in the world. It's a total lifestyle business. And you could buy a little amateur hockey team on the side and scratch that itch you have for sports, which I've always done. And he said, you could combine the two, insurance plus your business on the side. He said, you love to market, you love to sell, you love to promote. You can do that with the hockey team. And he said, join me for 1 year in the insurance business. I'll teach you everything from the front door to the back door. If you do not like it after 1 year, you can always go back to pro hockey. But if you do like it, I'll sell you this company. So after 1 year, Robert, I walked into my dad's office and I said, I love this. I love the insurance business, where I started to market and see how things were going in terms of promotion. And I was satisfied because I was coaching hockey on the side for fun. So that's my background. And now I've been an entrepreneur ever since then. And now I'm like you, I work with other small business owners and entrepreneurs, teaching them that marketing is the fuel of any business. I've been the owner of a barber shop. I've been the owner of a hockey team. I've been the owner of a window washing company, and I've been in the insurance business. And every single business, it's the same thing. Marketing is the fuel.
Very cool. You've seen so much, and I love your dad's sales pitch to you there, right? It started off with like asking you some questions and taking you on a little bit of a journey into an unbeatable offer. It's kind of like a story in itself. And so, as far as what you see, like you must have seen like the common threads, right? You've seen what works in the insurance business and the barber shop and the window washing. So when you say to someone like, okay, I know marketing, and someone says, well, then, like, what is marketing? Like, what are we all missing the boat on when it comes to like marketing and filling seats and getting people crammed into the store? How do we market? What is it?
Well, marketing has always been peace of mind for me. When I first decided to buy my dad's agency, we had a 10-year agreement, and I mean this is a big business. And he said to me, he said, "Son, it's a 10-year agreement. You can never miss a single payment over 10 years every month. You need to walk in my office and hand me a check every 30 days for $30,000." I had never made $30,000 in a year up to that point, and my dad said, "You have nothing to worry about. This business will provide that kind of income if you live very small and very humbly." So about the third month in, Robert, I my bookkeeper comes down to me and she says, "Michael, we're going to be short this month." She says, "We don't have 30K to give your dad." And I'm like, "Woo, I'm going to be humiliated. I'm going to lose this business. My dad's, the whole nine yards." And that was the day I realized I wasn't in the insurance business anymore. I was in the marketing business. See, when I was in the hockey business, I was always a marketer first, and I recruited players from all over the country. I knew that if I didn't have the best athletes, I wouldn't be the best coach. If I didn't recruit every day and market and promote, my arena would be full. So when I joined my dad's agency, for some reason, I took a more corporate approach, and it wasn't working. I wasn't doing a lot of marketing. So I walked into my dad's office and I said, "Dad, I'm going to be short a little bit here." And he said, "Well, you better not be." And he said, "Let me ask you something." He says, "Why have you changed your approach in this business?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You were a badass marketer in the hockey business. You were a kick butt recruiter. You were known for your marketing and promotions." He said, "Why don't you just bring all of that to the insurance business where nobody promotes, nobody markets, and really go with that, because that's your passion and that's your obsession." That day, I started sending out emails. I started doing direct mail. A couple of years later, I was doing television ads. I was doing radio ads, all kinds of different things. That first year, where I was almost short, we started sending out 500 flyers a month, 500 a month for car insurance. And when I sold the business in 2017, we were doing 140,000 a month. So we were literally no longer in the insurance business, and no longer, we were a marketing company. And I never came close to missing another payment again. That 10-year contract became a 7-year contract. But if I had not shifted my mindset and behavior to marketing, I wouldn't be telling you this story. I would not have made it in the insurance business. Marketing saved my bacon.
I love it. And without this mindset, it's easy for your mind to kind of like do stupid things and go in weird directions, right? It's easy if you're not saying, well, if I need to be thinking about how do I talk to the people I need to talk to, right? My customers, my players. And if you're not in that mindset, then it's easy to think like, oh, well, they'll just come to me or it will work itself out, versus the kind of like the manufactured desperation, or maybe not always manufactured, right? You say like, well, I'm going to be short this month. I need to pull out all the stops. I need to go back and figure out what worked for me and then apply it today. And I mean, we've all been in these situations of stress, right? You're in a rush to pack for a trip. You have the school assignment due, and when push comes to shove, you say, "Well, hey, now I'm going to make 100 phone calls a day, right? I'm going to send 100 letters. I'm going to do an email every single day." So I love this mindset of the temporary scarcity and saying, "I have this deadline. I have this hockey game coming up. I need this number of people, and then I need to kind of hit these milestones and do this kind of activity." And so what's your thought process here when you say, well, I need to like send this number of flyers, right? Or make this number of phone calls. Like, how do you arrive at that sort of like conclusion? What's your planning process like?
Everything to me, marketing is money math, right? So I'm always trying to invest $1 and get $1 back because I'm a customer lifetime kind of guy. So if I can break even on the first time selling my product, or even the second or third time, I'll keep that client or customer or patient for life. I've always been like that. So anything, like if I can spend a dollar on social media, or if I can spend a dollar on flyers or newsletters and get a dollar back, that's my return on investment. And that allows the small business owner to do this affordably. Like when I got into television, that was the big leagues for me down the road. And they said, Michael, you can walk on the freeway and you can tell people to call you. And I said, how much are these ads? They're 30 seconds. They're going to be on the 6 p.m. news. And the guy said, well, they're going to be around $300 to $400 each. And I was like, $300 to $400 each. And he said to me, he said, Michael, instead of worrying about the cost, let's test them one time and see the return on investment. So that's another mental block, Robert, I got over. It wasn't about expense, it was about investment. And it really didn't matter if it was $300 for an ad or if it was $1. It was what was the return on investment. So we run those TV ads and they ended up doing 1-to-1. So it would make the phone ring with a $350 prospect, and I would sell that person home and car insurance. My paper, my flyers, and my postcards, they were 4-to-1 over 10 years. For every dollar I spent, I got $4 back. Lots of losers in there too. I was never really able to make radio work. But I just measured in small amounts. Like I wouldn't put a lot of money out. I would just test. And like I said to you earlier, I tested 500 flyers, and we ended up doing 140,000 over the years. And that was just because we always measured everything that we did. And if it could give me a 1-to-1, I was the most excited guy around.
Very nice. And that simplifies it greatly, right? It just becomes a math problem. You say, well, if I track my advertising, if I know I spent this and it led to that, and I just kind of do these small controlled tests and get those initial results, then that the results, the data takes away a lot of the fear and the second guessing sort of mindset. And so as far as like the bigger picture, right? Success is never a straight line, right? We all go through these kind of pivots in our life trajectory. So as you were growing these businesses and they were really accelerating and succeeding, tell me about some of these pivots.
Well, I wouldn't have succeeded if I didn't take the marketing advice of the late great Gary Halbert. When I was in the hockey business and the insurance business, especially in the first few years, Robert, I was a slave to the business. In other words, I was working from 8 in the morning till I'd go back to work after dinner. And that was okay. I was a single guy with no kids, but I was running out of hours, which most small business owners did. And I couldn't get to the marketing. I couldn't get to the sales. So I was reading one of Gary Halbert's old marketing newsletters, and he mentioned the term Operation Money Suck. And Operation Money Suck was the 1 hour a day, and Gary was a copywriter, a marketer. He would invest no less than 1 hour a day into things that brought his company money, and that's different each day. So here I was, where I was swamped, and I was like, I didn't have any. He said, you go to bed an hour earlier, which I started doing. You get up an hour earlier, so I started getting up at 6 or 7, and I would set an egg timer in the kitchen, and I would literally sit down with my laptop and I would do marketing for 60 minutes. And I did that 7 days a week. And I wasn't any good at marketing, I was learning it. So that's how my flyers got designed. That's how books got written. That's how reports got written. That's how newspaper ads were created. That's how videos started to be shot. And then the rest of the day, I would deal with the chaos. But that 1 hour Operation Money Suck always went to my number one priority. So the night before I went to bed, I would always put one sheet of paper on my laptop. And that one sheet of paper would be the one thing and the only one thing I would work on that next morning. And it had to be the most important marketing thing. Some days it was me writing an email. Some days it was me writing an article in a newsletter. But I have done that for close to 25, 30 years. And I'm telling you right now, if I had not, had not embraced this 1 hour per day back in the day, Operation Money Suck, none of this would have happened. And I would have been the small business owner who said, well, I wished I would have wrote a book, or I wished I would have marketed more. So I can't emphasize enough how that 1 hour of solitude, Operation Money Suck, is so critical for any business owner, because it's so chaotic, and we build these Frankenstein businesses where we can't get out of them. We can't find any time. I have a saying that Dan Kennedy told me one time. He said, Michael, he said, the first hour of the day for an entrepreneur belongs to two people. The first hour of the day belongs to two people. It belongs to you, and it belongs to the entrepreneur you're going to become. And I've never forgot that. The first hour of the day belongs to the two people, you and the entrepreneur you're going to become.
That is very good. That's very huge and powerful. And it's the excuse destroyer, right? Because we all fall into this trap of saying, well, if only the busy season was over, if only I got all this out of the way, and then you run out of time. And so by having this 1 hour a day, you ensure that you at least keep some momentum in your marketing. And Michael, like, I come from a programming background, and in computers, like, there's always like multitasking, right? There's always like many jobs running. You have all these browser tabs open, and then there's no 100% correct way to give proper priority to all the jobs, right? Do you do like the biggest ones first, smallest ones first, newest? There's no straightforward answer. But then sometimes you just have to like let some amount through, even if they're not the most like pressing now, just so that way the system doesn't get completely clogged up, backed up, immovable. So this is great, even though we might be, even though like your marketing hasn't started yet, or you haven't seen any results, and so you say, well, it's the lowest priority because there's nothing happening now. Well, you put in that 1 hour a day, start with a discipline, push through, and then you end up getting the book written, right? You end up doing the email marketing, the website, the social media, the ads, and then it ends up picking up speed. And so as far as the consistency, the 1 hour a day, I'm really impressed with what you said right before you hit record, where you said that you record a video every day and then you tell your email list about it. And just like these kind of consistent daily actions, like, they add up to so much. But sometimes people, they don't follow through, they don't stick with it, they give themselves excuses before they even start. So how do we convince people? How, if someone says, oh, well, this won't work, I won't stick with it, how do we get someone to tap into your energy and do this Operation Money Suck every day?
You reverse engineer it. So when I wanted to make $100,000, like, I thought $100,000 was the largest amount of money that I could ever, I mean, life would be tremendous. So then Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazier told me, they said, Michael, you want to make $100,000. They said, you talk a good game, but you don't play a very good game. They said, your hour needs to be worth $350. And I was like, $350? They said $350 just to make 100K. So they said, how much do you think that first hour of the day is worth? And I said, $350. They said about $4,000. They said, because the chaos that you deal with as a normal business owner the rest of the day, that's $15 an hour work. That's $20 an hour work. And it's part of the game. They said, when you sit down and you write for money and you're violently consistent in that first hour, that hour, they said, you should put a thing up, a recipe card, an index card that says $4,000. I've had that up for 20 years now where I work, $4,000 an hour. That helped motivate me to be violently consistent, because every day I get up and I go for a walk and I shoot a video, and I send that video every day to my consulting list. And it's by email, and it's on YouTube, the Michael McLean Show on YouTube. And the reason being is when my feet hit the floor and I go out there to share something about marketing or business or life, I just keep thinking to myself, this is the most impact I can make in this world in terms of legacy. And this is $4,000 an hour work. And then when I get back, I mean, the rest of the day can take over. But one of the things you were asking me about, how did I scale this business, to 5 times what it was? What I started doing, Robert, after I did 1 hour, 1 hour was all I could grind out for the first couple years. After year number two, I started firing myself from every job in the agency that was $20 an hour, $15 an hour. I mean, I used to be answering the phones, I used to be fixing things, I used to be in service. I mean, I'm a lousy service person. And my dad said, you should only be selling. Your mouth should only open when you're selling and helping people. And then after that, I hired a few more people. I would just fire myself. And then 1 hour in the morning became 2 hours. And then 2 hours eventually became 3 hours of Operation Money Suck. And that's when our agency just exploded. So I started with the minimum 1 hour before, people got up. But then as I started to hire and fire myself, I was able to expand that to 2 hours and 3 hours. But I tell small business owners, start with 10 minutes. It's crazy what you can do in 10 minutes every morning. You can write an email subject line. You could write an email that could bring in $5,000. When you start with 10 minutes, you do that for 30 days, then get it to 15 minutes and then to 20 minutes, almost like ridiculously simple goals. But start with 10 minutes. I mean, and then you gradually build it up. But I'm telling you, 10 minutes can be 200 words. 15 minutes can be 300 words. And like you just said, that's a book. That's a report. That's the email. I'm a big email guy. So the first 10 minutes of every day, I write an email. And I'm like, that's all I really need to do to keep continually communicating. But start with 10 minutes and build it as far as you can.
I love it. Develop that habit. And so there's so much cool stuff in what you're saying here as far as the mindset and the math being intertwined, and like, starting with that goal in mind and working backwards and just figuring out these kind of like mental tricks to play on yourself in order to take some of these things seriously, put in the time that's needed, and then as that grows, then fire yourself from the lesser important tasks and then just grow and scale. And so we only have a few minutes left in our conversation, but I want to make sure that we cover the bases, but I don't know exactly the perfect question to ask you at this point. So is there a missing, hidden, invisible question in our conversation here, Michael? Is there a question that you wish I would ask you, I just don't know to ask it?
Well, the question I get, Robert, from small business owners and entrepreneurs, the people that are following you and learning from you, is how do I build more of a lifestyle business? And I mean, I work 3 to 5 hours a day. I used to work 20. I understand it from both sides. But we build these Frankenstein businesses, and everybody, you and me included, we all went into business for freedom, autonomy, and what I call personal sovereignty. And we end up going into business to be our own boss. I call it the be your own boss crowd. And most people, 99% of entrepreneurs, get the exact opposite. They're working Saturday, they're working Sunday, they're tethered to the business. So how do you get out of this Frankenstein business? I call it the golden handcuffs, where you're just when you're at home, you feel guilty you're not working. When you're at work, you feel you're guilty that you're not at home. That kind of thing. How do you have a lifestyle business? And I tell men and women, vitamin N, vitamin N, which is the word no. My life transformed, literally transformed a decade ago when I made vitamin N part of my daily ritual. And Warren Buffett, the great Warren Buffett, taught me this. He said that the secret to his success, not just being an investor, but he's also got a calendar that's pretty much empty. And he reads and studies for 3, 4 hours a day. He said, the secret to my lifestyle and my success in business is, he said, I say no to everything. And I was mesmerized by this. I mean, he said, I asked myself this question because if you say yes to something, you automatically have to say no to something you already are doing and enjoying. So I thought about it for a while and I said, people come to me all the time and they say, Michael, would you like to invest in this real estate property? Would you like to go golfing? Would you like to, whatever it is, buy this sports team? And every time I use the discipline of vitamin N, like that's, I would love to do that. But does it mean I can't drive my daughter to school? Does it mean I miss date nights with my wife? And if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. And I didn't used to have this discipline, and I was a multitasker. What's a multitasker? A multitasker is somebody doing a whole bunch of things, none of them well. So I always thought about Warren Buffett saying, I just say no to everything. And then you end up saying yes to the few things in life that are important. My mom and dad are both 90, and my dad worked to 85. And he says to me all the time, he says, Michael, when you're making decisions as an entrepreneur, he says, envision yourself at my age, 90, 91, and say to yourself when an opportunity presents itself, will this matter in the end at all? And that keeps driving me back into my family, back into my charities, back into serving people. But that's the biggest thing it's transformed my personal life, my business life in the last 10 years, Robert, is vitamin N. I'd love to do it. It's a shiny object. It sounds like fun, but I'm going to have to stop doing something that I love and I'm not willing to do it. So if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. And because of that, I've gone from working 18 hours a day to 3 to 4 to 5.
These are some deep and profound thoughts. And this is really important because it's easy to not realize this, right? That you're not just saying yes to something, you're also saying no to what you're currently doing. And it's something that maybe the thing that you're then having to say no to, it's something that you've got some traction on, some momentum on. You've thought it through just to throw that away for the newness. And so we need to be rethinking and be acting different so that way we get these different and better results. And how do we do that? What are some next steps here? How does someone find out more about you and go to your websites?
Join my daily video newsletter and you'll see how I use email. You'll see how I use video every morning. You'll see how I'm violently consistent. You'll learn how a lot of days I don't want to do this. It's not like I have any superpower, any special talent. I just always answer to the man in the glass, meaning I get up and I put one foot in front of the other. And I think that when a person finds something that's bigger than themselves, I call it a mission with my guys. When I was in the hockey business, I had a certain mission to win a championship. When I was in the insurance business, my mission was to become number one in the country, and I did that. I have a mission as a father, and in the consulting business, which I'm doing now, Badass Brotherhood, I have a mission, Robert, to serve 1 million men, and it's going to take me 10 years to do it. And I have two sayings with my business that kind of go with the vitamin N. I teach my men how to live life and do business on their own terms, and they're not doing that, right? They're slaves to the business. They're wearing the golden handcuffs, and they've created a Frankenstein business that they don't know how to escape. So that's the big thing I teach. And they're like, how do I live life on my business? And I said, vitamin N is the key. So for me, it's just like when you join my newsletter and you download my book at brassballssecrets.com, you see that it's about consistency and it's not about talent. I don't have any special gifts or talent for marketing or advertising or any of that stuff. I just do a few things every day, 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of writing, 10 minutes of walking. And I've done what you do. I've compounded it over 5 years, over 10 years. And I call it the two C's, consistency and compounding. That's what sport taught me. It just taught me that it's all about violent consistency. But remember, those things, those two or three things you need to be violently consistent with, which for me is Operation Money Suck, they have to be value principled and they have to be something that's bigger than yourself. Like people say, well, this is my purpose. I like that. But I always ask my guys, what's your obsession? Like, it can't be just selling insurance. It can't be just, running a jewelry store. What's your mission? What's something bigger than you that people, what's something you cannot not talk about? Like, I can tell talking to you that these podcasts are your mission. Like if I was at a barbecue or a ball game with you, it's not long to we're talking about our mission. I'm telling you about mine, you're telling me about yours. And men on a mission have obsession. And that's what I try to get my guys. And once they find that thing, Robert, that's bigger than themselves, all of a sudden you have the inspiration and motivation that you do these little things every day. There is nothing more powerful than a man or a woman on a mission.
Very cool. And so if we were able to figure all this out on our own, we would have done it. And that's why we need someone like you to behave in this mentorship kind of role and show us the way, so that way we can pull ourselves out of our own situation and figure out this mission and become violently consistent. And I mean, you being in sports, you must have seen, we've all seen like the person that has talent, but they also have too much of an ego and they squander, right? Because they're missing the habit, discipline part of it. And I'm sure that you and your guys in the hockey team, maybe some mornings didn't want to wake up and do practice and do your drills, but you had to because you had this mission that was bigger than yourself. And that's what we need to tap into by going to brassballssecrets.com. And if you're a wimp, coward, excuse maker, or do nothing, beware, because this book will change your way of thinking and will change your life for you. And so as people are going right now here, Michael, to brassballssecrets.com, it's time to put you on the spot a little bit and ask you about a quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business that you can pass on to us. I know you've already dropped all kinds of quotables already, but what comes to mind as far as the grand finale for us, a quote or lesson that has served you that can serve us?
The secret to living is giving. That's from my grandfather. That's from my father. The secret to giving is living. I've watched, my grandfather ran a general store. My dad ran an insurance company. And what I was most impressed of those men, my father to this day, is there's a giving component with everything he does. And it goes back to mission, really. And you have Thanksgiving in the United States and Canada, and people talk about it for a day, and you hear things like count your blessings and all this kind of stuff. The high performance people, the most happy, the most peace of mind, the people that seem to have it all together genuinely are people that just have that attitude of gratitude. And every day that's one thing that I'm always thinking about. Like I start every day in the dark I start every day with my 2 or 3 minute gratitude prayer. I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in my God and my creator, and I believe that the universe exists. Every morning in the dark when I wake up at 6 a.m., the first thing I do, Robert, is I go to my knees and I thank my creator for everything I have in my life. I never ask for anything. And my grandfather used to have a saying, Michael, you already have everything you need. If you need more time, that means you need more discipline. And I'll never forget those kind of things. Us living in North America, we have everything that we need. But when I was in the insurance business and the hockey business, we would never do a team promotion. We would never have a game. We would never have anything without asking ourselves, how can I serve a charity with this? So if we had a hockey game at home that Friday night, I'd say, okay, it's Big Brother's night. Okay, it's Pink in the Rink for breast cancer, or it's for the food bank, or it's for children's literacy. And you would think, oh, well, you can't afford to do these things. It drove our marketing because once again, it was bigger than something else. Like when I was raising funds for the Rotary Club and for the animal shelter, it was the best marketing we ever did. And we never even looked at it from that point. But finding a way to connect what you're doing to serving other people. And it's that attitude of gratitude. I talked to my guys about this the other day at Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is every day of the year. If you've got your head screwed on straight, Thanksgiving is the greatest time. It's every day. And I'll leave you, Robert, with something my 91-year-old father says. My 91-year-old father, we're out in the boat here in the middle of the lake this summer, and he says, son, I don't have any regrets. He said, I'm 91 years old. I was in business till 85. You kids have been great. He said, but you know what? He says, I must admit, I'm a little jealous that I don't get to play in the world that you get to play in as an entrepreneur. And I said, Dad, what do you mean by that? Because of, you hear the news and the politics and all this stuff. He said, this is, without a question, the greatest time to be alive. He said, 2024 is the greatest time in history to be alive. He said, I was born in 1933 into the Depression. I've been through double digit inflation. I've been through the Carter years. I've been through the Reagan years. I've been through the depressions, the recessions, the booms, all of it. And he said, with the internet and with artificial intelligence, he said, I'm a little jealous that I don't get to be an entrepreneur in 2024, 2025. And he says to me, he's got a saying, and I share it all the time, is he always says, son, and this is a 91-year-old man, just remember, son, the best is yet to come. And that's the polar opposite of what we hear every day with the news, with the politics. I shut all that stuff off. And I took a page out of Jim Harbaugh, LA Chargers book, when I saw him addressing his football team the other day. And here he is addressing these growing men, they're multimillionaires. And what does Harbaugh say at the end of the game? He asks his team, who has it better than us? And these growing men, like children, say, nobody. And I'm like, that's a guy I would like to play for. That's an attitude of gratitude. That's understanding that the key to living is giving. And there's never been a better time to be alive than now. And my dad will argue anybody on that, but it rings in my ear every day. The best is yet to come.
Very cool. And there's always this discussion of who do you have in your orbit, right? If you have a lot of negativity, that'll drag you down. You have someone who knows your stuff, is grateful, positive, motivational. That's where you want to be. And so we're here on this podcast to give you a little bit of taste of Michael and his energy and his advice. So if you like what you saw and heard, then it's time to go to brassballssecrets.com and opt in, sign up, get his free book, but most importantly, this will get you on his list to receive these daily videos. So that way, if you got energized, pumped up just from our short conversation here today, you ain't seen nothing yet. The best is yet to come. brassballssecrets.com. Michael McLean, wonderful speaking with you.
Great. I appreciate the chance to talk with a fellow entrepreneur anytime, Robert. It's just amazing the tremendous people you meet through these different platforms, and it is the greatest time in history to be alive.
100%. Well,